my disappointment that it's so difficult to get people just to come together, just to agree. It's so difficult. Hello, you gorgeous chaps and chapesses. How are you doing? Or is it chapettes? Chapettes, probably. How are you doing? Today I'm going to talk about spies. I'm going to talk about controlled opposition. And I'm going to talk about why I'm so frustrated with people. And what the dickens I'm going to do about it. I'll tell you all about it on the other side. So let me start by telling you a little tale. A tale of going back maybe 30 years, maybe 40 years, to when I was sent on a team building course. This was probably one of the most impactful courses that I've ever done, and it was designed to help us to build a team, to become a team. And it was all managers of my business from all over the country. We all got together. We didn't know one another. And during a week we did a series of team building exercises, which made us the firmest of friends by the end. But there was one exercise that stood out to me, and it's one that I've used as a reference for the rest of my life. And that exercise was called The Spy. That's what it was called, The Spy. And the idea was, in a nutshell, that we had two groups, and that it was suggested that within each group there was a spy. And we're all given a little bit of paper that said you were not a spy or you were a spy, yeah? And what we had to do is we had to work together as a team to build a tower. That was all, to draw it by dimensions. And each person had to go and get information and bring it back, and then we'd use that information to draw the tower. Well, the exercise lasted about 2 hours. Within 2 hours, everybody was so paranoid that we had a spy and that they were trying to make us lose. That was the idea of the spy. That in the end, two men nearly had a fight. Nobody was speaking, and nothing was done. By the end of it, nothing was done. We didn't accomplish anything. And we were all angry at one another. Everyone just sitting doing their own thing. Nobody was talking. It was awesome. When we got together after, the teacher, the man who was guiding the course, said, okay, so just let's calm everything down now. You're all going to be feeling. And you read out this list of how we were feeling. All right? To the dotted line, it was exact. You're feeling frustration, you're feeling anger, you're feeling deceit, hate toward each other. And he said, so put your hands up, the spies, please. Nobody put their hand up. There were no spies. We had spent 2 hours seeing monsters that didn't exist. Anybody that made a slight error, anybody that looked like they were doubting, anybody that smiled or laughed, we thought that they were the one. And there wasn't even one spy. The only thing that he'd done when we looked at the information was said, it's possible that somebody is a spy. That's it. And that was enough for it to ruin the atmosphere, for us to ruin our own capacity. Let me tell you another little story, very recent. This one is just last week. My wife is in a group of students who were all doing a course together. Okay, that group of students formed their own little group, a little WhatsApp group, and they were all chatting and they were all talking about the course, good and bad, saying, well, we enjoyed this, but this is too difficult. We don't like this. Somebody from the group went and told the teachers what the group was saying. But it wasn't, hey, well, they're saying good and bad. No, they're saying this about you, this about you. And then the teachers confronted the group and said, we've been told by somebody in your group that you've been talking about us. Now, what happened was this. One person early on in the group left the group and said, I'm leaving because I'm not really comfortable about what you're saying about the teachers. Okay? She left. So you would naturally assume that that was the person who taught the teachers. And I assume that that's the case. but it doesn't matter. Because the group don't know, what has happened, what I'm listening to my wife saying is, the group has lost all of its spark. Nobody's talking in the group now. Nobody puts any information. Nobody's sharing anything. Why? Because we don't know if the mole still exists, if the spy is still in the group. And so we'd rather say nothing. So why am I telling you these stories? Well, I'm telling you them because we have a spy in our midst. And our spy is called controlled opposition. And we've been told for a long time that there are people who are controlled opposition. And so we are on guard. We are absolutely looking out for that controlled opposition, whether it exists or not. It's ruining our group. It's ruining our relationships with people. I'll give you just a little example that, and I explain why I'm talking about this. This light here was a gift from my wife. Why? Because we have a business together called Light Speed Spanish. And when we designed it 20 years ago, we put a little lightning bolt through the middle of a red circle just to indicate light speed, learning Spanish at light speed. So my wife saw that and she said, "Oh, I'll buy you that. That looks really nice. That looked nice as a little backdrop in the videos." And so we use it on our Spanish videos. At least 6 or 7 times I've had comments from people saying, "Why have you got Lucifer's light there? Why have you got Enel's light there? Why have you got, God only knows, all of the whatever, anything bad," right? That means that you are clearly on the dark side. Be careful. Who are you channeling? You know, you're probably channeling demons because you've got this light there. And I think, what the actual fuck are you talking about? Have you listened to the message? Or are you focusing on that light and saying he must be a bad man because he's got a light by the side of him? On purpose, just because I'm like that, on purpose, I'm not taking that light down. I'm not. Because I think if somebody gets upset about that light and leaves the channel because I've got a light there, I would prefer that they leave the channel, because that ain't the kind of person that this message is for. However, I understand why. I understand why, because I've seen it happen over and over again. When we think that there's a spy in the camp, we become paranoid and we start seeing things that aren't there. We start extrapolating things that aren't there. We project onto people stuff that they're not doing. So it's a system that the baddies have used for a long time. It's a tried and tested system. I'll give you the perfect example of this system. The plandemic, right? What they did something at the beginning. Of that, I know. And probably they did something to either poison the masses a little bit to get this reaction, to get people going into a cleanse situation, a flu or whatever. They did something. Could be, I don't know, turning up 5G or what. It really doesn't matter. I mean, they installed 5G at the same time. But they did something to kick it off, just to get people's attention. And of course, all of the media and all of that, and all of the tests and everything. But after that initial scare, they did nothing except maintain the propaganda. There was nothing. When you look at the figures, what you'll see, and I'm going to be very careful how I say that because I don't know how much we can say about this, but when you compare the figures of influenza before and then the figures of the COVID during, there is no difference. There was no extra. It was exactly the same. The same amount of people. They just didn't diagnose anybody with influenza. They only diagnosed people with COVID. But that was all they needed. All they needed was to have the idea in people's minds that there was a thing going around. Just as all they have to put in people's minds is that there's a spy in the camp. All they have to put in people's minds is that there's controlled opposition. My gut feel is that there isn't any. And if there is It's a very small amount. But they're very obvious. I personally believe the controlled opposition is obvious as hell. Because you just have to watch them 3 or 4 times and then suddenly you hear the message, you go, ho, right, I know where you are now. They've got to give those messages. But personally, I just think that everybody is doing what they're doing with the best of intentions. But what's happening is that we're all looking at it through different coloured spectacles and going, oh no, because that light, oh my God, I know what that means. He said that word, you said that word. I'm going to come on to words next time. You said that word, and in my world, that word means X. Yeah, in your world. In mine, it doesn't. In mine, it means something completely different. And so we're in this place where we're projecting onto everybody these kind of paranoia. I think that's the word, paranoia, isn't it? And frankly, I'm getting a bit tired of it. So I was talking to the emissaries about that, and I was talking about my disappointment with people. And what I mean by disappointment with people is my disappointment that it's so difficult to get people just to come together, just to agree. It's so fucking difficult. And I've always thought that. When I talked to the emissaries, they said, because you've always thought that. You've always thought that. Even when I was little, I used to watch people and think, why are you disagreeing so much? It isn't that difficult to come to an agreement. And I used to just see people disagreeing for disagreeing's sake. And I used to think, why don't you just sort it out? It ain't that hard. But it is. So the emissary said to me, well, the reason that you're disappointed and the reason that it's too difficult is because we're not dealing with just people. And they reminded me of that scripture in Ephesians, which is, how's it called? Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world. You see, my issue, and I probably guess that your issue too, is that I keep forgetting that this is the devil's world. This is the world of darkness. And so why on earth I assumed that it would be easy to get people to work together, I don't know. But I was wrong. And the emissary said the issue is that the game is fixed. It's a fixed game. And so try as you might, wish as you might, demand as you might, people are not going to come together in this realm. They said it isn't designed for you to come here and just get willy-nilly agreement with people. And they clarified, if we went to the other side, they said, it would be easy to get agreement because that's a different vibe, that's a different attitude. It's very easy. But they said here, it isn't. That isn't the design of this plane. Just for everyone to be, hey, yeah, are we all in agreement? We're all in agreement. Should we all do that? Well, let's all do that. And of course, the baddies play on that, don't they? Everything is division. Everything is designed around division. And it works. For as much as I don't like it, for as much as I say, look, it's divide and conquer, it works. That's why they use it. Add to that, as the emissary said, not all the people are people. Okay? So we've got this group that will never agree. It won't agree. It's not programmed to agree. And they said, so the odds are stacked against us for us to be able to see any kind of coming together in this plane. Bear in mind that we're in the middle of a split and we're heading off somewhere else. And then it's going to be very different. It's going to be very different. The issue that I see at the moment is that everybody who is going on our path, who is choosing light, they're all at different stages of awakening. Add to that, as the emissary reminded me, they're all bringing different life experiences with them. They're all bringing different past life experiences with them. They're all bringing the traumas with them. They're bringing their prejudices with them as well. And the emissary said, it's a very complex situation, which it is. It's very complex. It's a hodgepodge of all kinds of stuff. And so it's very difficult to find some sort of global agreement. It's going to be impossible. Impossible. In this realm. So that brought me to my other question, which I said to the emissaries, why on earth then did I choose to see this and to be upset about it? Why did I choose in my plan? I want to see how easy it is to come together and see that it's impossible. And they said, rightly enough, well, you chose to see it so that you can learn to accept it. And by accepting it, then you can heal and you can overcome it and you can learn from it. And of course, I know that. They don't need to tell me, but they did, because I'd forgotten that my job is to come to terms with the fact that people won't be in agreement until later. I mean, don't think that that's forever. We're going to get to a place, and it's, as we move down that road, it's going to be easier and easier for us to come together. We'll all be maturing together, we'll all be growing together, and we'll be seeing, and lots of our suspicions will disappear. The people who talk about that light, it's just because they're fearful and they're suspicious and they're trying to protect themselves. They're trying not to be caught out, and I understand that. Imagine a time when we don't have to worry about that. We talked about that a while ago, didn't we? A time when we don't have to worry about that we don't have to worry that somebody's going to trick us. So much of all of this will fall away, and it'll be plain sailing. For now, however, I'm going to have to come to terms with the fact that people just don't agree. And so I suppose we get to the point where we say, can we agree to disagree? And that's maybe the best that we can get to. The only saving grace, and that's why I go on about it so much, the only saving grace is to know that what we know isn't the truth. It's just a perception. And so when we have just a perception, then at least we can give a little bit of leeway to other people who have a different perception. We don't have to trust them, but we don't have to hate them either. We don't have to point at them and criticize them and things like that. Let them do their stuff and we'll do our stuff, and we'll see who's right later on. And maybe we'll find out that we all were. And maybe we'll find out that nobody was. Who knows? Tell me, that's my disappointment, the fact that people just won't agree. What's your greatest disappointment about humankind? What's the thing that upsets you the most as you look around? I'd be interested to know. Put it in the comments. I love you all, and I'll speak to you all later. Bye-bye.